So what we have learned so far is that God creates the world with two letters, all worlds, the spiritual worlds with the letter Yud, primordial intelligence, before the source of intelligence, beyond intelligence. It creates the form of speech. Interesting, a child can babble, and breath comes out. And therefore, you have an articulation of the babble, right? But it's nonsensical. Why? Because they don't have the form of speech. They have the breath of speech, the hey, which is the breath, but they don't have the form of speech because that needs to be developed. Not based on the intelligence speech, it's based on development that then a child who might understand everything that's going on, or understands a lot at least, but can't communicate because it needs to develop that part of the brain that is beyond intelligence in order that they can have the form of speech. This world is created from the letter Hey, which is the breath, which is the matter of speech, as opposed to the form of speech, which is the 5 organs that create the 22 different letters through, again, the mouth that says the letter Pei, teeth at Shin, Lamed with a tongue, the palate is the letter Gimel, and the larynx, a Ches. Those are by examples. So those are the two elements. Spiritual world created from the letter Yud, physical world with the letter Hey. Now the question then is, well, if the letter Hey is the matter of creation, when God is creating the spiritual world, there's also spiritual matter, not just there's not just physical matter. So why is it specifically this world is created with the letter Hey and not all worlds, even the spiritual worlds? So the Alter Rebbe explains. What does it mean spiritual and what does it mean physical? Spiritual means that there's a greater closeness to the divine source and a greater recognition. But why is that? Is because what's primary in the creative force, in the Word of God, in the spiritual realm, is the form of speech, the more spiritual part of speech itself, right? It's the soul of speech. The form of speech, soul of speech. And because it's more attenuated, it's more refined, it's not as like in the breath. The breath is, a baby babbles and there's breath and it's being articulated, but it's all, it's all the same. There's no distinction. Why? Because in breath, there is no distinction. There isn't like the breath for one word and a breath for another word. I mean, it's not the same breath because you can't, but it's the same idea of breath, no distinction. There's no form to the breath. It's just a matter of matter. So the spiritual worlds are created from the form of letters, and the form of letters are 22 letters that there are. And if you have 2 letters, let's say you have two stones. The Zohar calls letters stones. If you have 2 stones, 2 letters, how many permutations can you have? Just 2. This is an aleph, this is a base. Put 2 letters together, you have the word Av, father. turn around the letters, base first, and you have bo, come. You can't have anything else. But if you have 3 letters, how many permutations can you have? 6. If you go to 7, all the way to 7, how many permutations of letters of 2-letter words? Because in Hebrew, you need at least 2 letters to make a word. So if you put 7 stones or letters together, you could build a possibility of 2-letter words, 5,040 words. The Sefer Yetzirah isn't the Zohar. I'm sorry. The Sefer Yetzirah calls them stones because with words, what do? You build a house. You build an edifice. You build a world through your words. So the element of the letters that are the form of letters, the different various 22 letters, when you have the permutations of 22, if 7 is already 5,000, from 2 letters you can only get 2, from 3 letters you can only get 6, and then you go all the way to 7 letters, and already you're at 5,040. Imagine using 22 letters. How many permutations you're going to have? The possibilities of how many creations you could have is beyond what the mind can fathom, right? Beyond. Now, although there are all these permutations of letters that are the life force of millions of creations, the true inner dimension of each life force that is of the spiritual realm, spiritual creation, is the inner divine wisdom, the supreme Chokhmah, as we mentioned earlier. Because that's the source of the form of letters. Therefore, what we have over here is that the creations in the spiritual realm, angels and souls, they have a great awareness of the divine. Because they're being created by primarily by the form of the letters, and from that form, that its source is from primordial wisdom, from supreme wisdom, divine wisdom. Therefore, they have a very great awareness of the divine. With that, we conclude. In tomorrow's class, we will go into understand this world and why this world, we don't have that awareness, because it's not coming from the form of the created world, word of God, but from the matter. And we'll get into that tomorrow. Any questions? Any comments? A little ethereal today, but a reminder, 6:30 there's going to be a Torah class on the Torah portion. Very intriguing. And tonight, TRC. Tanya Rabbi community. You are all part of the community here, and I invite you to be part of a greater community that takes everything that we learn here and brings it to another level of not understanding, but living it, which is important, to live what we learn. How difficult that is, to live what you learn, to live what you know. And That's learning to live. Learning in order to live. And learning to live. Just learning itself is to live. I don't see any questions. Everybody's got clarity over here. Amazing. Okay, Rambam's coming up also right after this. All right, folks. As I always say, you're all amazing. And wish everybody a good tavoch, a good week. Shavua Tov. Should be blessed, a blessed week with all good things. And our conversation will continue. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Suchin Kadesh Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have a wonderful, great day. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much, Rabbi.